Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics and member of the Ethereal Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note, this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Ethereal Society. Today, my guest is Steve Mera. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Jack, for having me on the show.
It's lovely to have you. You're a big name in the paranormal UFO community.
Well, I keep myself very busy. As you can well imagine, this community is a large community, and there's never a dull moment. It's always exciting, new things to learn and research. So I do as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, I know you have. I know you mostly through the Paranormal magazine, which is a great magazine, great work you're doing. But you also have a wonderful YouTube channel people can check out. You're also the head tutor for British and U.S. investigators into UFOlogical studies.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the founder of the scientific establishment of Parapsychology, chairman of MAPIT, Manchester's Aerial Phenomena Investigation Team. Am I missing anything out?
Probably a lot, but
yeah,
we could be doing all day long, to be honest with you, with a big long list. Let's just say it's 360. I work in this subject 360, from investigations to research to documenting scientific papers. And then on the other side of the thing is the media, the entertainment side, trying to get that information out as best we possibly can through our magazine, through the internet, our YouTube channels, different platforms, podcasts, radio, television shows. So it's kind of it's 360. I'd say anything that's subject related, I'm involved.
So what's your goal with all of your work? What are you trying to do?
Well, we're here for a very short time on this wonderful planet of ours, Jack. And I believe it's a necessity that we learn about the world we live in and our reality and the experiences that people have. Very varied, very, numbered around the world. And getting that information out to the general public and just doing as much as I possibly can to leave something behind where, it encourages people to ask the right questions, to look into the research in the right manner. Unfortunately, not to be disillusioned in regarding lots of disinformation, unfortunately, takes place throughout the internet and on television media sources as well.
Are you talking specifically about UFOs and UAPs or more generally?
Oh, yeah, mostly I'm talking about the UFO phenomenon. I mean, it does happen across all camps, really. But we've found over the years that there are people that are utilize their own narratives to sway general belief and public interest. They utilize the newspapers and media sources. They utilize TV shows and most of all the internet. And we are living in a difficult time now of confusion, because that's exactly what they've designed to do, is cause, this disillusion, not understand exactly the path where people are supposed to be on. And that comes with a number of warnings in regarding, how to look for the right material, because there's a lot of people coming into this subject that will be just bombarded with, so much puzzle and not understanding what's actually taking place here. But we have to sort of put away that and look at the fundamentals, the research that has taken place right in the beginnings in regarding what path we should be taking. And that unfortunately has become a bit of a disillusion now, because there's just so much in the mix, Jack, and people get a bit confused. They don't know what to believe. And I'm trying to make sure that right message gets out there for people to continue my work, because I'm not going to be around forever. I'm hoping that there are other people that will come along and pick up the research and the information that we've gathered over the years and carry on. But it's now a society. It's not the same as it was, say, when fundamentalists from the 1950s and 60s and 70s. It's very, very difficult to have people engaged in this subject at a younger age now. So for me, that's why we have to deal with the entertainment side as well, because a lot of the younger generation are really interested in the entertainment side of things. So we try and put relative information into the entertainment side so they get it that way.
Yeah, well, it seems that UFO is taking over from religion, as you're on the up then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Your job's easier than it was 10 years ago, 20 years
Well,
ago.
well, yes. I mean, at least the subject of UFOs is no longer the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And we can comfortably enter into, topics of that now, especially because of all the, the media attention it's got. A lot of people know this worldwide now that, we have UFO phenomena that we may never likely have ever been on our own. And, those narratives are changing. People are becoming more aware. But I think what's also very important is that we are doing a considerable amount of work in regarding consciousness studies. And it goes hand in hand with the technology, and it goes hand in hand with the UFO phenomena. It's about not just advancing technology, but advancing this and this and moving forward, because it's literally, it's a combination of those both that, that has led people to have many of these experiences.
Yeah, that's very true. People are too restrictive often with the UFO. They think they came from galaxies far, far away where we can't see with the telescope, but they don't understand the multidimensional aspect. And is Project Doorway, is that what you're working on at the moment?
Yes, Project Doorway is specifically designed to look at the mechanics of the phenomena in general, because we were never happy at the general hypothesis that it was simply extraterrestrials traveling the vast distances of space. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them may have done. But I believe the evidence points to more so that we're dealing with maybe possibly an interdimensional phenomenon. The evidence is pointing that way now, which means that we would be able to eventually start to see the extraterrestrial hypothesis, or the term ETH, slowly fade out and get replaced with something more appropriate, which it is being done now. It's referring to NHIs, which is non-human intelligences, because there may be more than one of them. And they may be, utilizing multiple ways to travel to Earth, not in a linear fashion from vast distances, but maybe be able to jump through from one reality to another, or even dimensional travel.
You see that in science fiction, don't you? I think these concepts are being introduced to us, in drip feed into our consciousness, and now there's more like, the multiverse. That's kind of featuring in movies more now.
It is. And some of the research now is being done in quantum mechanics. And I think this is where it's going to lead us to eventually. All the science of this subject is going to lead us down that road. But there is an intelligence, and it does communicate with us. And it communicates, it doesn't just pick, it's not random. It selects people. And it selects people that can have a voice. People who can group people together with opinions and make a decisive changes. We know that, positive thinking, reacts with reality. We can't break reality, but we can seemingly bend it to some, to our will to some degree. And that is about positive thinking. We live in a world where everything is very negative, and it's needed more now than ever before. And the teachings, that came early from George King in regarding this matter, it was great effort. And at that time, it was very befitting. But now we're met with so much negativity and, wrong information and disinformation, should we say, that, people are not grouped together, not thinking unitedly together about certain things. It's designed to cause divide, and that's a problem for people, because how are we ever supposed to consciously group together and try and make these changes now if we're battling all that the program that the governments of the world have put in place?
I see that with people as well. You can have two people who love chess, but they hate the other person's style, and he's not really or just picking a random subject.
Yes.
But you can have people, I imagine you see it in the UFO community, people who believe in UFOs, but are just clashing heads.
That's right. It is. And it just goes round, around. The unfortunate thing is that we're never seemingly taking those steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's one step forward and two steps back is always the case. And it's very frustrating for researchers like myself around the world when we see this, because there's plenty of evidence of the path has been laid, how we can communicate, how we can gain good knowledge. And when we do that, we are open to what is referred to as those download experiences. Those download experiences have changed the path of many, many things. I mean, George King had his experiences. If we look at just the rocket scientists from around the world, Russia, the US, even the UK, these people have also received downloaded information to help us get to the stars. It seems that these intelligences wants to help us advance. But the unfortunate thing is that we are general public are not in control of that. You know, it ends up in sometimes the wrong hands, and they utilize that information for themselves. They keep it back from the general public. We need to somehow unite at some point and be able to move forward, because I cannot see us being able to do that when we're back. Well, our focus isn't with these non-human intelligences. It's with the government and us battling what they want us to do and what they want us to think. But fundamentally, it's always been there. They've always tried to help us, advance us in many, many ways. Well, the problem is now that everybody's kind of hooked into looking at the debates around the subjects of UAP. We should not need any more debates. There is an overwhelming amount of information to say, look, the debate is useless. We already know they exist. We already know that they've been here forever. Yeah. This is not a new phenomenon. It didn't start in the 1950s flying saucer era. It's always been there. But the narrative would, the governments of the world would be trying to let us think that this is the case. It's always been with us, right? Since ancient times, our ancient ancestors, tried to leave us messages behind about this. And, it's trying to go back we have to go back in time to learn the good stuff instead of advancing forward, because the further we take the advance forward, we're met with more secrecy and more clandestine operations around UFOs. And that's a big problem for us, because we need to grow in a consciously. There are people having these experiences and they're trying to get the message out. But then they're bombarded with all these walls that the government have put up, these narrative walls. And that's a real tricky situation for us to be able to move forward.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, that we're told through the transmissions Dr. King received from Interplanetary Parliament that first there will be there's the silence group. First they're going to try and they're just going to deny it. It's a flock of birds or whatever. But then finally, when the evidence gets too overwhelming, they'll say that they're a threat. And
that is exactly what they're doing. Everything now is focused about they're a threat. They could cause some issues regarding civilian airways and military airways. Well, do you know what? We don't own the skies. No matter what people might think, we don't own the skies. I'm not aware of any problematics in collisions and things. The UFOs, these things can move at an incredible speed. To pass an airliner in the sky is like us jogging past a tortoise. We're very unlikely to collide. Yeah. And the whole reason behind this, I believe, because I've said this a few times now, that they want to generate all this threat at congressional level, because that will bring about a huge amount of money being invested into trying to create something.
If I was a military guy, I think I'd
exactly. And it doesn't help the situation. It only muddies the waters even.
So what would you, because they can hear this conversation and everything, all our thoughts, what would you say to the interplanetary intelligences? How could they reveal themselves better? What could help you?
Well, I mean, they have revealed themselves. Yeah. And sometimes to people in certain places where you'd think that would make a difference. But the engine that's been developed on a global basis now is very strong, very powerful, and relentless. And they will steer it into their own, into a way that it becomes beneficial for them and not public.
So what do you think about these Congress investigations then, and David Grush and all that?
I don't think they'll go anywhere. I think it's just, it's a cycle that goes around. I mean, we can go back many, many years to some of the first ones, which was like the Citizens Against Ufology movement, and they asked for information and the investigation took place. They got information, but it was all redacted. It was just sheets and sheets of paper blacked out with a pen, and just like utter waste of time. And I think we're in this process, this loop of going around and around and around. And it's more like they've created a system that the public demand these sittings, these hearings. Eventually, though, it tends to fall flat. Then eventually it raises its head again, and so on and so forth. there's been several of these attempts, and I don't think we're going to gain any information apart from the fact that public, in regarding that, in the public mind has been good. That's a positive thing. That okay, well, it's now more in the positive in the people's minds. I'm noticing that there's been an increase in sightings because there's an increase in the belief of the phenomenon. It does actually work like that, surprisingly. People have said to me in the past, well, I've never experienced anything. I said, well, do you believe it? No, I don't believe in any of that. I said, do you not think it actually makes a difference? Well, the science guys say, well, no, it shouldn't make a difference. But it does make a difference, because what we realize now is that when you accept the phenomena, it opens a little doorway and it allows them to come through and communicate and interact in certain ways. We're living in this closed door fashion, and we're not going to accept it because if I've never experienced it, I don't believe it. Well, it needs to be the other way around. We need to have the belief in it to see if it exists, and people will find out for themselves. It really does. And people have been utilizing that for many, many years throughout, military industrial complexes, science, rocket technology, mathematical equations. The top scientists of the world have had helping hands. If it comes through dreams, or if it comes directly through them as a process of download or communications directly from the source, and they've had helping hands. They've admitted this, that they've had help. And this is all about gearing us in the right direction technologically. But I think we need to catch up, consciously with that, because we can end up at a point where we're like children with matches, and maybe we just haven't grown internally and consciously with the technology that we have.
Oh, it's wonderful to hear you talk like that, because many of these UFO, still they're as bad as the scientists, sometimes. And I spoke to guys like it's from SETI, and and I said you've had all these testimonials. Testimonials can put someone in prison. You'll believe someone did a crime if, even if there's no videotape. If you get witnesses, and you've got videotape, and you've got radar, you've got what is proof? I mean,
well, I would say proof is for people who have had experiences, and I would say to anybody, look, I do not mind people being skeptical, because I can understand that, because that social bringing up that we've had is taught us to say, well, I don't believe it unless I experience it. No, that's a problem right from day one, because, that's the whole religions are based on the opposing angle of that. It's about belief. If we take just an example, Dr. Gary Nolan, who's a very respected scientist who's looking into the UFO phenomenon, very skeptical, scientific gentleman. But once he started getting involved in the subject of UFOs, conducting analysis and research, he started to have some personal experiences, and he couldn't believe it. He said, I've been closed. These people like that are very closed-minded, but once they take that further, it only takes a small step to open the door a little bit, to accept the fact is the possibility that maybe some of these things are real. It just gives enough gap for the phenomenon to be able to interact and say, look, we are real, and that can help them.
Does he believe it now, or he's like denying his own experiences?
Denial is a problem, because it cuts off the aspect of our mind that allows us to be able to open and expand our consciousness. Consciousness studies is advancing. That's a good thing. And we know that we definitely associations between consciousness and this phenomena. And it's similar to, religious experiences. It's no different. People that came into religion had the belief first, and then they have the experiences. So it's no different. On one hand, we can call it out and say, well, I'm not going to believe in that. I don't believe in any of that sort of thing. I'm skeptical. And yet they'll go to church once a week. And may say, well, do you know what? I do believe in God. I do believe that He can steer my path. And yet you think to yourself, well, how can you do that and accept that and not this?
It's interesting you talk about these investigations are repeating themselves, history repeats themselves, and now we're at the moment in society we're saying skepticism as a strength. We're taught that that's a good thing. You're skeptical, he discerns, but we're told by the masters that the faith is a much greater strength. And when you analyze that, it makes more sense. Yeah,
it is the other way around. We're realizing now the reality that we live is it's down to our belief and our acceptance that makes the physical change. I mean, if
There
we
you go, yeah.
just look at stigmatic, right? Stigmata. You know, it appears on the hands of people through devout belief that they have the Christ's wounds.
Jesus was crucified in the wrist.
And so the phenomenon moved 76% of it, you know, when they found out. And that tells us that we can govern the physicality of our body just through belief. Belief is always something prior. It's the most important initiation. And once you have that, then you can allows people to be able to have those experiences and learn for themselves. They can decide further down the path if it's right for them, if they're interested or not. But at least let's not deny them the capabilities of being able to have those experiences. That's the problem we have.
Yeah, going back to the UFOs, like how they could help us more. They're doing everything they can because we're told through Dr. King that they're limited by karma, the law of karma. They can't just you don't go into a primary school and help all the kids get the blocks, get the square block in the square hole. We've got to learn, and if they just landed in Times Square and told us all the secrets of gravitational, and then if there was a war and they used this technology, they'd be karmically implicated.
Exactly, and this is a problem. It has to be done in a very strategic manner, in a sensible manner. But they have tried to push this message out in every single country. They have concerns about.
They're doing a lot of work.
They really, really have. I mean, they tried it from people in high authorities to children in playgrounds. They've tried everything they can. They've always been stronghold and delivered those messages about the ecology of the earth. I mean, what are we doing to planet Earth? Which is disgraceful. And not just that, is that why are we still warring? And it gets us into this mindset. I say to people, look, do not watch the news, do not read the media, because it's going to start off by saying good morning and then tell you why it isn't. And it continues to be, it puts you in a negative mindset and worry and stress and upset, and that is not good. How are we supposed to build these walls, get rid of these walls and build bridges? When we've got so much negativity in the world, it's very, very difficult to fight against. But they've tried so much to get the message out. But most of the time, it might fall on some people's ears, which, are just not listening, or it might actually get out into the mainstream, but then it gets squashed, because there's grand efforts by other people in high authorities that have devised a society that allows them to be the voice and control. And that stamps out, those small whispers. And that's a problem. It's, we are whispers in the camp against a very large voice. Yeah. But the more people that get together, the voice gets louder. Yeah. And that's when we start to stand together. And that's what's needed. We need more people to stand together to make the change.
Yeah. So what are your personal beliefs? Because you've heard all these different theories. I mean, in the Ethereal Society, we believe that it's not people from Andromeda helping us; it's people from Mars and Venus, another frequency of vibration. So which makes sense because you help people in your backyard. No, that's all planets are populated just to different frequencies of vibration. So, which of the theories that you've studied, the thousands, what are your personal beliefs relate to you?
Well, I believe the phenomenon is all around us. It's right under our noses. It listens. It interacts with us. It knows. I mean, just because we don't see it or hear it doesn't mean it's not ever present. It is, especially to those people that have, a burning knowledge or to make some positive changes in the world. Or even people who have been introduced to having experiences at a young age. I call these the initiation experience because I believe the phenomenon purposely reaches out to children. And it kind of understands that by having this experience, it's going to change the mindset of this individual. And in 20 years' time, they're going to be talking to 5,000 people about our message. And sometimes that initiation experiences, I think, is required sometimes to allow the people to be able to, they can foresee that this person is going to be shaped into somebody who can maybe deliver messages to a larger population. I do that myself when I go and lecture about, say, 5,000 people. I had an initiation experience when I was 7 years of age, and I had no interest in the subject, no idea why I had that experience, but it's put me where I am now. And it isn't just me. There are thousands of people like me. If you really get to the core of the matter and you talk to these researchers in very high places around the world, they will say, might not all admit it because some of them think it might be biased to their investigation and research process, but they fundamentally, they tend to be having initiation experiences that's got them into the location where they are and capable, to deliver that information to a grand scale. The problem is the information that's being given, because some people will start to rely on, information that's not accurate. Information is, it's disinformation. But they can't. This is what the governments do. They've got it so difficult that people can't work out what is right and what is wrong, what is incorrect, what isn't. So therefore, it gets mixed into the pot and gets delivered out, and it causes confusion. And this is a problem. We need to really take some steps back in regarding the purity of those experiences, because before the days that the governments had all these plans in operation, how to create disinformation, and confusion. We need to take some steps back and learn from our, the predecessors that have these open contact type experiences, because that was the route we were supposed to take. But now that route is diminished by so much disinformation. It's a problem.
So you're saying that your personal beliefs that everything is everywhere is inhabited, or do you?
It's everywhere. The phenomena is everywhere, because we live in a very, very tiny scope of reality.
Are you talking like Men in Black? I mean, are you saying?
Well, do you know what? I mean, there are government Men in Black. There are real Men in Black, because what they did is they started to copy the phenomena.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people would have experiences, and sometimes they didn't want that information in the wrong hands, such as, this is a personal experience for you. Why would you want to give that information into the hands of the government? So what happened would be is that the phenomena would kind of turn up on occasion and say, look, we don't want you to talk about it. We don't want you to, give that photograph, and they take it away with them, and that'll be the end of it. But that was when the phenomena was trying to interact in some way to control the information. However, what happened is that the governments got wind of the phenomenon and started appearing themselves as government officers from the MOD or Department of Defense, and they were and caused confusion as to, well, some of it's the phenomena and some of it's real guys dressed up in the government. They are the real, physical Men in Black. We do know it kind of consists of both, and they utilize that to cause confusion, and to grab the information and obtain the information and keep it for themselves. When sometimes there's very important information there, which is for that individual to share amongst the community, and they put a stop to it straight away. So it stops that from getting out. It's as if that is a purpose plan to stop the ability for that information to grow, which is the phenomena wants that to happen, wants it to be shared, and they want to close it down. So sometimes that battle's been going on for quite some time. But I do think this phenomena is around, is aware of conversations where we have conversations. I know this because I've experienced where doors have opened for me in reality. I do know that there's some, I don't know if that's directly associated with the phenomena or it's got some hand in it, but it seems that there's a path. I always paddle with the current, never against it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of geared or shown the path to take. And doors open for me to do that. Whoever's responsible, they've helped me get to the point where I am because I haven't had to try hard. That's the problem. It's been an easy path to take. And I believe that, I've had helping hands along the way.
So what are you trying to do then with Project Doorway? Is there a multidimensional aspect to it?
Well, what I'm trying to do with Project Doorway is get people to understand about discernment and about themselves, because there are other things out there in this world which might not be too nice. and they can pose a threat, and they can pretend to be the phenomena in a sense of speaking. And again, that causes confusion.
I mean, the lower astral realms.
Exactly. And sometimes other things will utilize that to make us think, oh, it's a UFO experience, when it's really their narrative and what they're trying to do with their agenda. There are different things. And I'm trying to teach people about how to understand it's about testing the spirits, as it says, if you test the spirits, because through testing them, you start to find out, are they pure? Or is it something in a disguise? It's masking itself as for what it wants. Because I think because there's so much negativity in the world, there seems this great feed towards negative phenomena being utilized. And that it can come in numerous guises, one of which could be being utilized to say, oh, I'm an extraterrestrial or I'm an astral being, and here's my information, when in fact it's a guise. So I'm trying to get people to understand that forget about your instruments, forget about your equipment. It's about here and it's about here. And that is the way to find out, is it the true phenomena that you're dealing with? Because there are things that are not. And I have to express it's a very important time now, because there are people who come forward and said, I've had some terrible experiences. And they understand that they may have had those experiences. But it doesn't necessarily mean it came from the source that we thought it was.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm trying to educate people that, that there is love and light out there, but it isn't all. And now the reasons why it isn't all is because there's another faction involved that's utilizing. And this is because it's bred upon all the negativity in the world. And, it's kind of a bit of a battle. I mean, the Bible starts off as a battle in heaven. It's the same battle taking place really now, I think, but in a slightly different, how we perceive it to be. And I think the good thing is being able to educate people to say, okay, question your experience, test the spirits. Are these acting with you? What can you do to find out more? How do you prepare? What do you do? Those circumstances. And at the same time, looking at the research that might identify us, well, this is definitely a phenomenon, because the phenomena has a trait, and that trait is identified through this research. It isn't this is pretend. This is something else that wants to take you a different path. And that's how I'm trying to put a fork in the road to allow people to discern what is what in regarding these various phenomena.
That's really good, yeah, because discernment is so important. There's so much phenomenon. And when Dr. King came, he started the Ethereal Society, which is the oldest international UFO organization. I mean, he was marching in Trafalgar Square, for the government in the 1950s. Yeah. But he was also a master of yoga. He did 10 hours a day pranayama mantra for 10 years, 8 hours a day, and he raised his consciousness up so high that he could project from the body.
Exactly.
He could go to the other realms, and he fought Armageddon against the dark forces in the 1960s in the lower astral realms.
Yes.
And that's the kind of the underlying thing.
It is, and it's the same forces that are at play today. And that's because there's so much negativity in the world. It's perfect playing ground for them. Yeah. And we have now two things that could be experienced. We've got those that are in disguise, the mask, I call it, and those are authentic experiences. For the individual, though, it's a terrible problem for them to try and discern what is what. So it's about understanding about how people can manage those experiences, how to deal with them, testing the spirits, conducting your own tests, really, because anybody who's an experiencer can test. Absolutely. And if they find out that, okay, this isn't what I thought it was, it's something in guise, then they can make a difference. They can change. It's this, and that's the problem, because people really don't know.
Well, I mean, you've got to sympathize with the dark forces. I mean, their days are numbered. The consciousness of humanity is rising.
They're panicking.
So they need, the best way to discredit something or to attack it is to imitate it, and then
exactly,
act badly, be a bad actor.
So the true phenomenon gets a bad rap.
So the true phenomenon, yeah, exactly. And this is really it's a logical strategy for them to do, and you know, they're doing it. So
That's it. But you know what? We were given the capabilities to see through it,
yeah,
through that veil of deceit. And all it is a matter of people being able to learn the process of how to do that. Don't take it verbatim. We can't trust our eyes. Sometimes we cannot trust our hearing. What's presented in front of us. Where we know that people have been tested since the beginning of time regarding such matters. It hasn't changed. It's still the same thing, just with another mask, a 21st century mask. And its ways is to get in there and cause corruption and cause, confusion. And that's what it wants to do. And for us, as researchers, we can see both sides of the fence. And we need some type of program put together where we're educating people in regarding the identification of the more negative stuff. So that it makes it easier for them to recognize, that it is a mask and that they actually control us, or even control us in a psychological manner.
yeah,
And can actually infest into our lives, and cause terrible problems for long durations of time. So it's the same thing. It comes by many different names and many different masks, but the teachings go right back to the beginning. It's always been there. They've always told us, and they've always told us what they're prepared to do to get to where they want to be.
yeah.
And it's just about trying to educate people in that manner through the process of our research and investigation.
For COVID, the way that was handled, and that really opened my eyes as well to see, I know this not to be true, but yet still on the mainstream.
Exactly. And it's, they're going to continue to do that because one of the things that's most powerful is trying to convince the public of a lie. And it's got very, very easy over the years. They've manufactured and built things and put things in play where it's been digested for long periods of time into the social community so that we accept things for being truthful and honest, when in fact they're not. They're actually the opposite. And that's control. And if you can control the general populace belief, then that is advantageous to those that want to do that. And sometimes you even have to question those people right at the top of the chain. Where do they lie with this? Are they being steered in, themselves to be able to do so? Absolutely. Of course, it's at the deepest levels. But on the other side of the coin is that there's something which is much more powerful, which is much more enlightening, and it will help mankind in the long run. And that's what we're battling. We're battling ourselves at this moment. There's still that war. Same old war is still taking place. Unfortunately, though, that it's the public vs the government. That's kind of how I see it worldwide. They might have their own narratives, and but at the end of the day, there's nobody more powerful than the general public. We put them in force. We're the people. We're the force. And if we get to reunite together, in times and through positiveness, it can make a change. We know this through experiments. Positiveness changes reality.
Oh, you have a wonderful message. I really, it's so good.
I'm trying, but you know what? You can only do as much as I possibly can. But what I can say is that people have contacted me, and after learning the process of how we recognize when people are being deceived by phenomena, they've realized, and they've come back to me and said, isn't it really weird that as soon as I realized what these things were, the incident stopped, the phenomena backs off. Right. Isn't that always the case? Yeah. It just proves that we're on the right path. So we have to do this in a scientific manner now. We can't stand on the street corner anymore because people are laughed at nowadays, and it's a shame. The days of George King marching forward doesn't work anymore because they built a system that doesn't allow it. So now we have to do things we have to go with their program and utilize their program of getting that information out. We have to use the internet. We have to use the media. We have to, and we have to use that entertainment side. But it's our message. It's on their tracks, but it's our trade.
Yeah. Well, I can see how orchestrated it is. I still dip into the mainstream media just to see what it's like, even though I know I shouldn't. But you can see, like, when a story comes out, like I was reading one the other day that the head researcher, who obviously was a plant into UFOs, had resigned. Came away and was on a podcast and said it's all a pile of I've done it, I've researched it, and it's bullshit, and
Yep.
it's all
That's it.
just, and that was on a sort of small podcast, but it was covered in, the mainstream media.
Exactly, because I always find out negative stuff always gets promoted and positive stuff gets squished. And I see that pattern many, many times. And it surprises me how newspapers that had never touched this subject ever because of the seriousness of this newspaper would suddenly run something like this, which is, of course, disinformation. And I think to myself, okay, well, there's the narrative. I can see through it because of the years I've worked in this field. I can see how that works and how it's being utilized for people to be able to see it, because thousands of people are going to read it. Thousands of people are going to see it on television, and that's going to build a narrative. And that's what they want to do. They want to control the narrative. It is a battle, but you know what? We will win eventually, because we are getting to the point is that we are consciously getting better.
Yeah.
And we're changing. Humans are changing. We are advancing. We are evolving, and at some point that little switch it's in there. It's just going to switch one day. Yeah. Now, scientists have said, why have we got so much brain that we don't use? Oh, that's our storage. That's when that switch switches on. We are going to need it. Yeah. And we're getting closer and closer to that happening consciously. We are evolving, changing. And it's getting to the point where I think it's going to supersede all the lies, supersede the technology being used for the wrong reasons, and it's going to put us in a better place that we can leave all these troubles behind. Because every single morning I'm tired of seeing something where it causes stress, it causes worry. If it's not war, it's famine, or it's something else, or it's illnesses. We're in a time now that of just generally keeping people down and depressed, and that's control. We've got to lift ourselves above it and see through it, unfortunately.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that really resonates, and but I take the positive from it. But first they deny it, then they laugh at it, then they say it's then they attack it violently, and then finally it's accepted as, oh, we always knew that all along.
And I've always realized, if we press the government enough to try and come up with some response, which we might consider a strong step towards disclosure, it will be another manufactured, because they have them stacked up already. They're already on the bookshelf. Yeah. This is the new narrative. This is what we're going to do. And if they really force our hand, we'll give them another lie. Okay, here's the new one then. And people will swallow that for a while. And then they'll go, oh, here's the next one. Yeah. It's forever, ever changing. But it's just to delay the inevitable. The inevitable will happen. The governments will lose their control. And that, and people will eventually change. It's a shame that the method of being able to put out this information in times like throughout the 1950s is gone. But that's only because those walls there weren't there then, and those plans and actions to divert it in different ways. That's why, George King managed to reach out to so many people, and it did make a difference, Unfortunately, nowadays, though, they've got a master plan of how that doesn't work. So now we need to change it's a battle. Now we have to move our quarter to somewhere else. And what we're going to do, we're going to utilize what they've done. They created the internet, they created media, and newspapers, TV program. We are going to use what they've created to deliver the right information. And that's how it goes. And so it goes on. But at some point, that tables are going to shift. And things are going to happen. We have to evolve. I know people are frightened about it. We have to push forward. We have to look after the planet. We have to look after ourselves. Because if we don't do that, what is the point of anything? It's just pointless. We're running to a corner, and we got to get through that somehow. So the research that we continue to do, some of it is very technical, because we start to look at the paranormal mechanics. And those mechanics are, well, we now know that the UFOs are somehow associated with frequencies of light, terahertz frequency, in fact. Well, that's really interesting, because the ancient sites around the world, resonant chambers, which were being utilized to communicate with these astral beings, are designed for frequency. And it's the same thing. Our ancient ancestors were trying to tell us, frequencies is everything here. And now we're starting to realize scientifically, we're actually right, and we can prove that it's right, And this is why, that they worship the rising and the setting of the sun, because the rising and the setting of the sun is terahertz frequency. It's the same light source around UFOs that's been measured by equipment. An auric field is in the terahertz frequency. It's all connected. We are connecting the dots slowly, and we're learning more about phenomena. But the more you tend to learn, you kind of go, well, hang on a sec, but I heard that reference thousands of years ago. So you end up going back to learn new stuff. It's just the way it is, really, Jack.
Well, you're doing wonderful work. You've got 250,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, and so where can people follow you? And we want to hear more from you.
Sure.
How can people?
Well, people can just generally type my name into Steve Mera, Mera, into Google, and it'll kind of pop up all over the place. I've always made it me very easy to get hold of. I put out my email, I put out my phone number. I'm a person. I don't mind, getting calls from perfect strangers. And they do, and they ask me all the time. But I'm a person that doesn't hide behind the screen. I'm out there, I'm delivering the information personally. So anybody can reach out to me just by putting, my details up on the internet. But they can go to a number of websites. I have Phenomena Magazine, which is phenomenamagazine.co.uk. It's completely free. People have asked me, how do you have so many subscribers worldwide? And I say to it, it's free. And that's pretty much it. We want to get the information out, just as the Ethereal Society was doing. Most of these organizations are locked behind paywalls now. You've got to learn. You've got to pay me to learn. Well, no, you do not. It's free to learn. It's part of life. It's part of us. So I've always made it sure that it goes out free. It's a monthly download, new information in there every single month. And you have access to all the archive of all those years of those magazines as well. So that's something we continue. But you can also get in touch with me directly through my main website, which is stevemera.com. So people can contact me that way directly. And our YouTube channel. So, we have Zohar Entertainment Group. I have my Steve Mera official YouTube channel. And people can also get involved through our events. We have a number of events that take place throughout the UK, 2 or 3 of them each year. awakeningexpo.com or awakeningexpo.co.uk. People will find out about our events. I'm always there. And people are always coming up to me and chatting, telling me about their experiences, asking me maybe some advice. I do as much as I possibly can to help people, because isn't that the most important thing at the end of the
Service
day?
is the jewel in the rock of attainment.
Exactly, Jack.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Steve. It's been really great chatting to you. And if people want to learn more about the Ethereal Society, they can go to ethereus.org. Thank you.
Thank you, John.